Ever get that feeling, like, what if things had gone differently? If just one little thing had changed, would the whole picture look different?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at today, that what if factor.
Okay.
And specifically with a day that's, well, seared into our memories, April 19th, 1995, Oklahoma City.
Right.
The Murrah Federal Building, the bombing, 168 lives gone. And the hardest part, 19 of those were children.
Yes. Yeah.
It makes you ask, could it have been different? Could it have been prevented? Were there signs, points where things could have gone another way? That's our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We're going back, looking at everything that led up to the Oklahoma City bombing, trying to understand pieces of the puzzle, the choices people made, what was happening in society, everything.
It's fascinating, really. This case, it's not isolated. This bombing, it wasn't just one man's doing. It came from somewhere. Anxieties, just under the surface of what America was in the early 90s.
So it wasn't random. Things weren't exactly peachy back then, were they? What were people so anxious about?
Well, picture this, the Cold War. Decades of, this huge threat. It just ends.
Right.
So relief, sure. But also, what now? Who are we without that fight? It was a weird time.
An identity crisis, but for the whole country, I get how that's unsettling.
Exactly. And on top of that, the economy was shaky. Recessions, jobs disappearing, people hurting. Who do they blame? The government, right. Distrust was huge.
Yeah, and unfortunately we see this pattern. Fear, uncertainty. That's when the extremist ideas take root.
Exactly. And that's the lead up to Oklahoma City, right? You get these groups, anti-government, they start getting powerful, militias, that kind of thing. They gave people a place to belong, but also some dangerous ideas were brewing.
Right, and this wasn't just a few people meeting in secret. They were tapping into real fears, twisting real problems to fit their narrative. It's a classic tactic, isn't it? Make things simple, blame someone, offer a solution, even if it's a dangerous one.
Absolutely. They give you a way to see the world, a group to belong to, a sense of power. It's intoxicating and dangerous.
And into all of this walks Timothy McVeigh, the bomber. We have to be clear here. We are not excusing his actions. What we're trying to do is understand, how did he get to that point? What were the things that put him on that path?
Well, McVeigh, he's a puzzle himself. Decorated Gulf War vet, a patriot, you'd think.
Yeah.
But underneath, this growing anger at the government, like his service meant nothing, like the system was broken.
So you have this young man, trained to fight, comes home and feels betrayed by the very system he fought for. Makes you think, what if he'd never enlisted? Would it have been different? Or was that disillusionment already in him? It's like he was already primed for anger, and then, Waco happened in 1993. That was the turning point, wasn't it?
Waco, yeah, that was huge for McVeigh. He wasn't just watching it on the news. It became this personal thing for him.
Right. Now, some people might not remember all the details of Waco. Could you give us a quick recap?
Sure, okay. So you've got this group, the Branch Davidians. They're living in a compound in Waco, Texas. The ATF, they think the group has illegal weapons. So they decide to raid the place. But the raid goes wrong, really wrong. Shooting starts, and it turns into this huge standoff with the FBI. 51 days, they're stuck there.
Wow, 51 days, that's a long time.
It was intense. The whole country's watching this thing on TV, McVeigh included. But he wasn't just watching, he actually went to Waco.
He did.
Yeah, handing out anti-government stuff, getting more and more fired up himself.
So he's right in the middle of this powder keg, feeding his own anger, chilling. So how does it end? How does this 51-day standoff end?
Tragically. There's fire, a big one. 76 people die inside, women, kids, a lot of people.
Oh my God.
To this day, people still debate how the fire started. But for a lot of folks, Waco became this symbol of the government going too far, a warning sign.
And for McVeigh, who already thought the government was evil, this just proved his point.
Exactly. It's where you really get into the what if. What if they hadn't raided that compound? What if it hadn't turned into this huge thing? Could McVeigh have gone down a different path? We'll never know.
It's impossible to say, but it's a powerful question. Did McVeigh ever write about Waco? Did he say it was part of why he did what he did?
He did. He actually said Waco was one of the main reasons for the Oklahoma City bombing. He saw it as the government attacking his own people. He thought he was fighting back.
So Waco was a turning point, but it wasn't the only influence. There was a lot of extremist stuff going around back then, right?
Yeah.
Books, ideologies, that kind of thing. Did any of that play into McVeigh's thinking?
Yeah, and this is important. McVeigh, he wasn't alone. There were all these groups with these far-right anti-government ideas. And he was reading their stuff of this book, The Turner Diaries. It's a novel, a fictional story, I should say that right up front. But it's about basically overthrowing the government.
So not exactly a light read.
No, not at all. And of course, it's never just one book, right? It's all of it together, this echo chamber where extreme ideas just keep getting louder and louder.
And it makes it harder to see outside of that, to question anything.
That's the danger. You look for things that agree with you, and then those things make you even more extreme. It's a cycle.
So you have all this happening at once: anxiety, anger at the government, these extreme ideas spreading, and then Waco happens, and it's like a match on gasoline. It's tragic.
It seems like in all of that, McVeigh found something, a purpose, even though it was a twisted one.
And what's scary is he wasn't the only one who felt that way. He had help, people who believed the same things he did.
Which brings us to the bombing itself, the end result of all of this.
And we have to remember, this wasn't just like a spur-of-the-moment thing. It was planned, every detail. This was terrorism.
So this was serious, not just some angry outburst. This was calculated, thought out.
Absolutely. And the target, that was no accident either, the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building.
Right. He went right for the heart of it.
He wanted to make a statement, wanted people to be afraid, to rise up, he thought. And in that moment, it worked. He got what he wanted, that fear. When you see the pictures, even now, it's just, the destruction. And knowing people, families, it's hard to even process.
It really is. 168 lives, 19 children. The impact of that, it's still felt today.
Those families, the ones who were left, they carried so much pain. And the survivors, to live through that.
It changes you, something like that. And it wasn't just those directly affected either. Oklahoma City, it woke America up to something. Terrorism, it could happen here, at home.
This wasn't some far-off thing anymore.
Exactly. It forced to change, how we thought about security, everything. Airports, laws, even just day-to-day, how we think about being safe. Oklahoma City changed that.
Airports, you see it everywhere. It made security real, didn't it?
And not just physical security either. People started talking about these ideas, extremism, how lies and anger get so powerful. We had to face it,
It's something we're still dealing with, I think. How do you stop something like that without, taking away freedom? Where's the line? It's complicated.
It really is.
Yeah.
But we all have a part to play. We have to be aware, call out hate when we see it, build understanding. We can't change what happened, but we can learn from it.
Right. It's not just about remembering, it's about doing something. So we've looked at this terrible event, the lives that were lost, what it taught us. But that question hangs there, doesn't it? What if? What if things had been different? Maybe even bigger question is, what can each of us do to stop something like this from happening again? Something to think about.
Absolutely. It's on all of us.